Nagendra, I don't know whether he's here. He was also part of it. So, and then we had a couple of students. May I know whether the same set of students are participating in this, or it is different sets? So, depending upon that, I take a route differently.
Yeah, different sets.
Okay, so then then it also makes me that I will spend some 15-20 minutes on seeing what is an enterprise, how do we set up, what is a precursor to have an enterprise started, and then we could also then open up for questions and also take up the legal and ethical angles of starting up an enterprise. Okay. So let me share the screen for the presentation, and you can definitely send your questions in between when I'm presenting through chat or by raising hands. I would be happy to solve those queries for you if you have any, and then see how to go ahead. Right. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so this is on entrepreneurship, how to plan for startups. So why one has to create an enterprise? So I think we are living a new world, a new economy, and things in this new economy has taken a different shape. So earlier, like when our parents graduated from their schools or from their colleges, people were more inclined to work with some government agencies or government established organizations, thinking that they have a lot of life spending in that, and therefore earn a livelihood which is very, very straightforward, and then which doesn't have any humps and bumps on the path, and therefore they carved out their livelihood through such a streamlined income from government agencies. Probably like because the most of the guys who are listening this talk are millennials or Gen Z generation. I think it could be even your grandparents who would have done this, and then your parents might have worked in the organizations which are more non-governmental, in the sense not the NGOs, but mostly the private limited companies like the Infosys, TCSs of the world, which started to boom in the country after the liberalization policy that was adopted by Shin Narasimha government in 1991. So between 1991 and 2005, I think there was ample number of institutions, private companies which started up or which were existing in the country, but then had not bloomed. They bloomed completely in this country, and then they employed maybe your parents and your uncles and aunts. So you would have seen them working after graduating in these organizations, and now they might have spent around 20-25 years working there, and then they would have seen the whole cycle of people, how the economy has changed. So today we are living in an economy which is actually more mature, and then which is trying to create a wave of entrepreneurship in the country. So this is what has happened around a good 30-40 years ago in the US, maybe around 20-25 years ago in the China, and maybe a 10 years ago in the Southeast Asian developed countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, wherein there is a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in the youth. So today we are in that phase, and I think in India the entrepreneurial phase for the youth will sustain for another 10-15 years before we all mature, and then we all end up being a big enterprise on our own, achieving a multinational scale, or we are acquired by companies which are multinational in nature, or we may actually get even die out in the course of doing the startup. So all these three possibilities do exist, and then one has to have that kind of a pragmatic approach while starting up the enterprise. So one of the things that I would definitely tell to every entrepreneur who wants to start an enterprise is to be pragmatic in approach, in the sense like you should be aware that it is not an easy course. it has humps and bumps on the path. It is not a journey which everybody would aspire to. But if you aspire to do it, you should have the required amount of patience and required amount of risk-taking capability, and sacrifice few years for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And then we have ample examples in the world today, and even in the Indian ecosystem today, people who might have not earned so much as their classmates, because the classmates worked in some reputed companies, and then so today people aspire to work in Amazon, Google, Facebooks of the world, and and earn a lot of salary. So if you start up, definitely if you have a classmate of you who has joined to Amazon, would be earning some 10x your salary. But you would see in a matter of 4 to 5 years how you would do 100x of that person. So this is in monetary terms that I am explaining to you, because the first and foremost incentive for anybody to start up is a monetary, in terms of the societal pressures, right? But you should know that by creating an enterprise is not just monetary. Creating an enterprise is more a dream. It is like, if you read a book called I Too Had a Dream from Varghese Kurian, who set up almost 100 odd enterprises in various sectors like cooperative education institutions, NGOs, regulatory bodies. You will understand that setting up an enterprise, setting up a company, setting up a industry is more like a dream than only monetary, because monetary is something which is a fallout of that dream. So for example, if you ask an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or an Anand Mahindra that if you had did you vision yourself to be a billionaire, millionaire, or unicorn or whatever, but their answer would be as a direct no, because they never thought that becoming a unicorn is an end in itself. They wanted to solve a problem, so they want to achieve a dream, so they wanted to solve something which is not solved in the in the ecosystem or in the industry, and hence they wanted to actually achieve something which is very meaningful for the world, and therefore the world recognized that meaningful activity by giving them money. So they could monetize the solution they had. Therefore, they became a unicorn. Therefore, they became a billionaire or a multi-billionaire, whatever. So, like if you take the example of Elon Musk, obviously he is going to be the most sought-after person in the world, like what Bill Gates was when the IT revolution happened, right? So, if because Elon Musk has revolutionized the motor industry, has revolutionized the space industry in a way that nobody could have envisaged, and therefore it is a dream. It is the penchant to solve something which is not solved in the world, penchant to solve something which is unique and something which is useful for the world, which is the primary objective of an enterprise. And then comes monetizing it, and then comes making money, because once you monetize it in a meaningful way, people end up paying for that particular service or that particular product that you offer through this enterprise, and therefore you are you would become, or the founder would become the millionaire, billionaire, or a unicorn, whatever you want to call it. Is it clear? So any doubts till now? Any questions you guys have to ask? You please be free. It is not a regular lecture session wherein I am the professor and then you have to listen to me. You can definitely raise your hands and seek questions, and you can ask quirky questions so that it will be very interesting. Any questions? So I don't see any chat box here. Clear? Okay. Okay. So then let's go to the next topic, that is, as I already had said this about this enterprise in India in the decades of 2021, 2030 will be the high growth years with a V-shaped rebounding growth. We already have seen in the last 2-3 months that COVID has a bit relaxed. We have seen how the economic activity has really taken a center stage. Of course, there has been a few there has been a few hiccups because of the Ukraine war and the ever-raising oil prices. But I think in general, and then the global inflation going up, but in general, somehow the economy would find the path that which was stunted in the last 2-3 years because of COVID, and will grow in a V-shaped curve and will grow up very fast. So investments at seed and ideation stage are increasing and have already started. So NAVANC is an example of it. So we have raised the seed stage funding. Though we have not done the PR activity, I would be happy that all our investors have signed the agreement, and we are raising roughly around 300K USD for our seed round. And for a person who is not from any VC background and who doesn't have much relation with VCs, it's a good amount. So in all, we have actually, including the funding through various accelerators, we are actually near about 500,000 kind of a fundraise. But 300K is through the preferential shares that we have allocated. So I will come to that. What are the methods of taking funds? What are the agreements that we do? That is the objective of this particular session, right? So there is, and you also know there is huge pipeline of IPOs lying with SEBI, companies like Navi, companies like Swiggy, everybody who wants to come into the IPO thing. That is, they want to raise public money for the enterprise that they are creating. So there were around 24 unicorns that were created in 2022, also 2021 on itself, including my own classmates company called Credivenue, which became a unicorn in a record 1.5 years time. Of course, here there is an example of infrared market also. I hear there are some news of compliance issues with infrared market. So that is also a good example to see that you may become a unicorn, but if you don't maintain compliance, you will see the fall also very quickly. Why ethical and legal angles are very, very important for an entrepreneur is it shows in if the market is trusting you, we have to be accountable and we have to be ethical to a single penny. Right? Then economic models are changing and fast emerging. So you can see that digital models are taking shape. And I'm sure that you would be aware of influencer marketing, digital marketing, and many of you guys are already on Instagram, and then you would have yourself be a influencers. I don't know, like there are many students who are trying out to be influencers out there in the social media marketing front. So these are all things which are happening in this country, and then it is bound to change the look and feel of how the enterprise looks. So we nowadays talk in the enterprise world as a millennial feel. Right. So, for example, my CTO keeps saying that the website has to be a millennial feel. So we had a website which was very kind of a oldish. So we are now revamping, and therefore, if you check on the website www.navanc.com, you may not find anything today. But in a week's time, we are launching our new millennial feel website, and which is being designed by a student who is from BITS Pilani, and he's just a third year student in a dual degree program. So let me tell you that if there are students, there are engineers who are watching out, who want to work in the space of data sciences, who have some expertise in data sciences, or who have expertise in some front end like React.js, could come and approach me on LinkedIn, and then we are happy to take some people as interns and work with you guys. So that is a separate thing, but I give an open offer for everybody. We want just young minds, very bright people to work with us. So that's another thing. So the economic models are changing, and they are changing, fast emerging, and you will see that. So for any enterprise, as I said, we start with why, and why there is no solution, why there is nobody who is serving that particular market. And so therefore, customer becomes the key. Customer centricity, customer experience. How are we solving the problem of the customer? Is a key issue that we have to really resolve. And even in NAVANC, every day there is a question that what is the issue that we are solving? What is the product that we are solving? So for each customer, there may be a different piece of solution that he is interested in. So we will have to see at the starting stage, which is that we give primary importance, and how do we monetize that particular solution. And if we monetize that solution, is there a scalability to it? And therefore you emerge as an enterprise, right? So the most important thing in a startup is, well, you start with an idea. Then once you start with an idea, you provide a bit of solution to it. So that is called as a minimum viable product. Okay, so then you see the product market fit for that particular the solution. Now, when you go to the customer will say, oh, this part of the solution is what interests me. And there will be another who says, okay, this part. So a part A would be what I am interested in. Somebody would say part B is what I am interested in. Somebody will say the whole part of A plus B is what I am interested in. Now, you will have to choose the customer whom with which you work. Like, for example, I think I gave an example of Facebook. Like when Facebook created this whole social media, the only thing that it had was a thumbs up, that is a like button. And now today you can see there is so much of emoticons that Facebook has provided for. So now somebody when had a sad news to share, somebody when had something which is not very very good but heartbreaking incidents to share, people were still pressing the like button. And now that caused a concern for customers who are using Facebook. Now, so think this as a product which is actually of a social media, generic, public good kind of a product, which is Facebook. And they had to think about a solution as to how do we appease the customers who are not actually wanting a like, but somebody supporting, or somebody actually crying with them in times of distress, or somebody showing concern for the distress. So today you see a lot of emoticons coming there, and you have the choice to press whichever you want, right? So that's how the product to market fit happens. So that's how once you start with a segment of a customer, and then that customer keeps giving feedback, once you loop in that feedback to that particular product, then you start scaling up and monetizing. So that's how the enterprise starts. Is there any question at this point in time, or am I too fast to tell about this? Just give me a minute. Yeah. No questions? Just let me check the chat. No chat. Okay. I assume that you guys are hearing to me, and then it's interesting because if there is no feedback, I might not know what is the actual thing. Okay. Anyways. So this is something about the MVP which I was talking about, how to pivot and iterate with the customers, and funding starts later. Now, because this topic is solely about how do we start up legally and ethically. So forget the ethical part. We'll come to the ethical part later. What is the legal angle for starting up? So there are very many ways of people thinking about solution to the problem. For example, in engineering colleges, typically you see people developing certain. I heard through Brigade REAP program that one of your classmates or one of your seniors have developed the electric two-wheeler, which is being now used by Brigade REAP for their All India tour. Right, so I was part of Brigade REAP Accelerated, but they didn't know that I come from MBIT, and therefore I didn't come to that session of. I think the Professor Nagendra spoke on that day. That's what the Brigade REAP guys told me, and so might be these guys when they started the two-wheeler electric vehicle, they might have started as a engineering project. So they might have not initiated to form a company. They have not seen what is how to create a company, so on and so forth. So at an engineering level, definitely you have ways to start it. You can start just as a project, and you get a product out of that project, and then you start thinking how to sell this. So that's one way of doing it. But if you started as an entrepreneur, a professional entrepreneur after some 2-3 years of experience, then I would always say that you should create a company and then start. Now, this is very important because you guys are engineering students and not students of management, to draw you to a concept of what is a company and how is it different from a partnership or a proprietorship. So many people get confused and then they keep on using the word partner, director, and then company, and then something is firm and all such things. So these are all very different firms, different terminologies. Like when you talk, when you yourself is a sole person who is in charge of the company, then you don't have any other documents showing that you are in charge of the company. You are actually bare minimally protected. That is, like, you are not at all protected in the outside sphere. So you continue to be a proprietor of the company. So this is just like running a kirana shop. Now, is kirana shop having an IP? Is kirana shop having something of an accountable standard? If the customer comes back to the kirana shop, will the same person answer to him? So all such things is a question mark. So proprietorship is the least possible form of starting up an entrepreneur or enterprise, and then that is the most least trusted of all the enterprise. So if you are starting it as a proprietorship, so many of for example, in Pina, if you see, the mechanical engineers might relate with me. There are many CNC machine holders who do lathe work and all, have kept these companies as proprietorship, and then they earn decent money. So that is their concept of making it, because they can see how the proprietorship makes the profit, how to actually divide the profits, how to hire, what not to hire, and all. So everything is in control of one person. So the risk is also very high. Return may also be very high, because the risk is high because if something happens to that person, or if that person doesn't behave in an ethical way, then the whole enterprise goes for a toss. So that is why the enterprise, which is a proprietorship, the enterprise, it has very very limited standardization, and has very limited acceptance in a startup environment, in a startup ecosystem. The second form of starting up is to have a partnership. So 2-3 guys now work on that project and create a product, say for example an electric vehicle or something like that, and then 2-3 guys have some share. So everybody says that I am a partner of 30% share, 33% share, and they have a partnership agreement, and they register also. So therefore it is a partnership, but yet in a partnership everybody has an equal right to vote, and if one of them doesn't vote, then the partnership fails, right? So partnership is okay, better than a proprietorship, but it is not all that great as well. And then the banks and financial institutions would definitely not trust much about partnership, because all the 3 guys can collude and do something which is not very ethical, and then still fool around the customers and fool around the people who funded them. And therefore partnership is not a great method to start, but yes, it's more like viable and more standard than the proprietorship concept, right? The best method of starting up is to start a private limited company. Now, of course, there are very many reasons why private limited is trusted. At the same time, exiting a private limited company is also not very easy. Exiting means that you have to wait for a couple of years, you have to wind up the operations, and then close the private limited company. So private limited company gets closed after a couple of years only. So when you are starting a private limited company, the risk of starting it is very low, but then the complaints associated with a private limited company is very high, because the complaints associated is with that private limited kind of a structure is very high. The credibility, the accountability is also very high. Yeah, I find a question, I think so. Let me see. Okay. What are the problems faced by startups? I think, Kalyan, can I take it at the end?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, but may I know what kind of problems? So there are very many problems that startups face. So we are talking about starting up itself as a problem.
Yes.
So I was telling what is the method of starting up. So that is what we are trying to solve. If you have any other questions related to the product or anything, you let me know. Actually, what is your question? What is the problem that you want? What angle of problems that you want to see? Any specific? Okay. Then I will take it up at the end and I will try to solve. Yes. Good question. Okay, like competition or financial. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I will take it up. Financial, anyways, I'm covering up. Competition, I will also cover a bit of it. So therefore, I was telling you about the private limited company. Therefore, an enterprise in the form of a private limited company is the best option available to an entrepreneur. Now, a lot of complaints angle that you need to take care of. That the only down, the down path or the downturn for this private limited company is it's not easy to shut shop. Okay, so therefore the entrepreneur has to bear with all the compliances before shutting shop of the enterprise if he wants to shut shop. So ideally, no entrepreneur wants to shut shop his private limited company. He would want to upgrade it. He would want to either sell it to a bigger company. He would want to either get it into an IPO mode. He would want to make it better and bigger and has vision and mission. So therefore, like if you ask me at NAVANC, so definitely I do not want to sell it to another company. I would want it to make it as a unique enterprise in itself and take it to an IPO. So this is what is my vision is. So let's see how it all goes. So therefore, if you want to start up an enterprise which is a private limited company, there are 3 important people that you have to go to on day 0 itself. There are 3, believe me, all these 3 people are costlier. They require money, but at the same time, they're also very helpful because they understand that you are starting up. They will not ask money on the day 1, but their bills will be ready as soon as you get funds. As soon as you start making revenue or as soon as you get grants or as soon as you get funds, they will come to you with a bill. So all these people will charge, but all these people are super helpful and you guys have to go there. You can't do it without going to them because some of them has to come through their own signatures. So the first of them is to have a company secretary. So to have a company secretary, because company secretary is a person who will file all the records that are required for, there are from Form 4, Form 12, Form 12A, so many things which are required for incorporation. Therefore, once you give all your Aadhaar card and other things, they create what is known as DIN. There is a DIN number. So there is a director number, and that director number once created, that is for the entire lifetime. So for example, there are many entrepreneurs who will start an enterprise, they will shut shop, they will go and work in a company, again start an enterprise after a few years. So again, so the same DIN number will be used. So now I have a DIN number. So my DIN number is for my entire life. So I can start up with this DIN number. I can be director to any other company with this DIN number, but this DIN number will always exist. So the director incorporation number. So that will exist for the lifetime. So in NAVANC's case, we had a director who was my colleague, who was actually my junior. I only had groomed him and all, who was a director for NAVANC for some 4 or 5 months. He has a DIN number, but now he is not with NAVANC because the plan was not to get him into NAVANC, but we needed 2 directors when starting up. So because my brother was in the US and I could not get his signatures on day 0, I had created him the DIN number. So this guy continues to be our shareholder, has a share in the company, and still has a DIN number. So if he goes back to any company and there is a background verification, he has to give a statement saying that he is not an active member, but he is not an active director, but he is a shareholder in this company, so and so company, because the DIN number gets reflected everywhere. So this DIN number once created, it will not go. So the company secretary will create this incorporation certificate for you first by creating the DIN number. So there are 2 directors which are required. So today I am going to talk to you about the most ethical, most legitimate form of an enterprise, that is private limited company. So the most legitimate form of an enterprise is always a private limited company in this country. So this is again with respect to India. So the company law which I'm talking about is with respect to India. So if you are going to start up, there are very many engineers who would want to start it up in the US and have a subsidiary in India. So this I am not talking about the US law because I do not have a US entity with me. So there are specific laws which govern the US entityship, and then there is a subsidiary element also here. So that also should be taken care. So all these things will be the details will be given by the company secretary. Usually the company secretary and the chartered accountant, these two guys sometimes are the same. Both of so he's a CA and CS, or she is a CA and CS both. So in many cases they have a firm. They start a firm. So wherein there is one chartered accountant assigned to you, and then there is a company secretary also assigned to you. So there are by chance or by sheer luck or by your efforts, if you go to an accelerator, if you go to a startup accelerator, or if you go to an incubator, there are certain people who would have tied up with those particular accelerators and startups incubator. So you may get company secretaries or chartered accountant. But in this group of 70-80 people who are hearing to me today, if you really want to start up something, and if you want to really this one, you please can ping me on LinkedIn. I will give you the names and phone numbers of the company secretary, chartered accountant whom I work with or whom I know very well. So you can go and approach them and get the work done by explaining what you want to do and all. Right. The third important people that are the stakeholder that you really have to have, and the most costliest of all the three. So the money increases from, so company secretary is the least paid person, then comes the chartered accountant. The most paid person is the legal firm. So the legal firm come in to picture because of various angles to it. So needs to be done, including the co-founder agreement. So I will come to you about the co-founder agreements in a while. Then the funding arrangements, the funding agreements that will come, I will also talk to you in detail about that. Then the IP protection. So especially if you're doing something engineering stuff, you need IP protection for it. And in India, fortunately or unfortunately, companies like us and the ideas like us can only be copyrighted. So that's the maximum. That's the maximum IP that I can have. But people who are building products which is actually could be shown physically, and it is possible to have a material for it, then you can actually apply for IPR. So these are the three people that you have to go on day zero itself. If you are starting a company. So if you have any doubts on this, you can please ping me now. Any doubts? Shall I proceed? No.
Yes, sir. You can.
Yeah. So coming to the legal angle, we have any question which has come?
Sir, two students have raised their hands. I think they have doubts.
Yeah, please,
Asha?
please go ahead, Asha. Okay. Our institutes conduct a lot of hackathon, ideathon, and we emerge with a lot of ideas regarding products. What are the steps which would be taken to choose a viable product? So the first step, Asha, to take a viable product is to just see what is the customer acceptance to this particular product. So you get a lot of ideas. You have to take these ideas to a group of market customers. So that is like you can conduct a focus group discussion with these customers, whomever you think that could be customers. For example, you are creating say a notebook, okay, a notebook like this. Now you really have to go to people like executives, some set of 10 to 15 executives with this cover design, with this, what are the features of this notebook. So this is a material, and this is how it looks, and this is how there is a flip flop for this and all. So this is what gets into the design, and this is what gets into the the product market fit angle of it. So similarly, if you are doing something which is coming out as an idea, sometimes it's only an idea and then you don't know how to take it forward, is to first see who are the people who get positively or negatively affected with the idea, and go and meet them and have a deep dive discussions with them before and then you tell about your product and you tell about your solution to the product and get their opinions. So that's the first and foremost thing that you have. Then you create the technology, or you create the product itself which is required, and go back to the same set of people and see whether they will actually buy that product or purchase that product. Right now, if they purchase that product, it's well and good, they use it and give you the feedback. If they don't purchase the product, then also they give you feedback as to why they are not purchasing the product. What is the limitation of this particular product? So that is also another thing that you choose. So now you keep using this feedback loop to create that particular product, right? So this is how you get a viable product. So finally, out of 1 or 2 years of iteration, you will understand, okay, this product fits the best, and then you scale. Have I answered this? Yeah. Any other question? Somebody else has raised their hand. Any other questions? Okay. So now we are talking about Kalyan's questions. So we'll come to the Kalyan's questions. So the first and foremost is to get the incorporation. So for incorporation, you have to get the DIN number. As I said, for the directors, 2 directors are compulsory for a private limited company. And then there is memorandum of association and articles of association. That is called as MOA and AOA. So this is a very critical document which will actually say what is this company going to do in a very, very broad sense. For example, NAVANC Data Sciences, we work with only banks and financial institutions. So I cannot say I work only with banks and financial institutions and do whatever. So we have incorporated in our MOA, AOA, what all bank can do, what all financial institution could do, we will also do. So tomorrow, if I want to change course of this company and say that I will do something else, I will pivot something else, then I need not go back and see in MOA, AOA, have I covered it or not. So we are a software company, so we are a data sciences company, so we have banking related activities, we have data science related activity, we have technology related activity, all in our MOA. So the entirety, the broad perspective of work that we could do as a company gets covered in MOA, AOA. Okay. Then even before doing this, I think the most important step is, and the most difficult, is to choose co-founders. Who are your co-founders? For example, in my own case, I made a mistake of choosing a wrong co-founder. Okay, who was not yet ready to become a co-founder. So this is very important that you choose a confident, reliable co-founder, have a proper shareholding, and also a proper co-founder agreement. So you need to have co-founder agreements. I have people who are like, for example, who were lawyers themselves, that too graduating from the prestigious law universities in the country, and then a couple of there were 3 founders. 2 of them were graduating lawyers, and 1 of them was a law doctor. A very, very successful company startup along with us in Brigade. I think you guys might have met him also. So the learning that they had is, the third fellow, the doctor fellow, wanted to exit in between. He didn't feel like working with this startup for whatever reasons. He had some health issues and all. So then what happened was, since they didn't have a co-founder agreement, they had to shell out a bit of higher margins to him and give a share to him, and still called him as a co-founder. Now, in my case, since he had worked with me as a junior, and then I had told him, boss, if you're not going to come full time, then you will not be a co-founder. And since we had a very good rapport with each other, right? And in both the cases, in the previous example also, and this case also, this is possible because we had a very good rapport. There are there are instances, there are companies, startups which go to courts because of this co-founder problem. Okay, wherein one of the co-founder wants to exit and be an employee somewhere, and because he gets family pressures, he is not happy with what is happening. He doesn't get ample recognition in the company, therefore he is not very happy with it, and all such things emerge. Which is so now you are understanding the startup. The most difficult problem of a startup is to manage the human emotion and human behavior. So we have had people whom we have spoken to who are behavioral experts. So you should also actually talk to behavioral expert, but it's at a later stage. And I hope that if you are part of some accelerator, they will help you to find out a good behavioral expert and talk to the behavioral expert regarding your product, your company, your shareholding, your customers, everything. Right. So this Kalyan. So this is one of the most trickiest problems that any startup will face. The co-founder problem, because the co-founder, as in any project, you might have understood, there are free riders. So even in co-founders, there are sometimes free riders. Okay, who free riders in the sense they are actually not free riders. They were actually very happy to solve the problem. They will be very enthusiastic when you started solving the problem. And they're very enthusiastic when you are starting up. But as few months go by, as they see, oh, this is not a great solution, or this is not a great problem to solve. They're not finding out customers. They're not finding out funding, funders for it. So then their risk appetite dies down. So they want to go. But if you have a co-founder agreement in place, you're always protected, because that will speak that if any one of you walk out of the enterprise, then what will happen to the other? How much share you will partake? How much share you will have with you? What will happen to your co-founder tag? All such things will get highlighted in that particular agreement. Therefore, you should have an advocate who designs this co-founder agreement, and therefore somebody has to sign this co-founder. Now, you may ask a question that, is it bad to be a single founder? Now, for example, NAVANC is a single founder company. It is not bad, but I'm saying that the legitimacy with a co-founder is high. So, I asked one of my angel investors who had worked with Y Combinator. Now, have you guys heard of Y Combinator, YC? I think if you're a millennial guys, you must have already heard. You might have classmates who had already participated in YC's hackathon, or YC's, I might have applied to YC already. So, so this guy, this angel, is one of the best known angels in the country and has worked with YC. So I asked him, boss, like, anyways, you are investing in my company. Can I also apply for YC? So he said, hold on, don't apply for YC, because you're a single founder company. And YC doesn't like a single founder company so much. It's not that they don't fund, but if you are getting enough funds right now, you can hold on to going to an YC, and you can just try to concentrate of running this company. So I didn't apply for YC. So this is how things happen. Okay. So many of the things so therefore you have to have a CS, you have to have a CA, you have to have a legal firm, and many of the things are very digital today. So you need not, for example, we incorporated a company, we created everything. We are now doing, seed round funding, everything. I have not seen anybody there physically. So we have been only doing it, everything digitally. Everything happens digitally. Compliance happens digitally. GST is filed digitally. MCA incorporation happens digitally. So seed agreements happen and signed digitally. So all these things happens. So now coming to the funding, so financing of this one, what questions that I think Kalyan asked me. So Kalyan, so one of the trickiest issues to manage people, to manage the senior management, to manage the co-founders. So that is the most difficult problem. I think the second problem that startups face in this modern world is to find out the good tech talent. Now that everybody says that tech, medtech, edtech, fintech, prop tech, all these tech are suffixed to every sphere of business. But and you guys also graduate saying that I'm coming from this college, that Ivy League college, it's a tier 1 college and all such things. But when we actually work with them, not everybody is so great. So we have worked with people from BITS Pilani, we have worked with people from IIITP, we have worked with people from normal engineering colleges. I think there are studs, there are diamonds in each of the lot, and then it is us who could pick up and actually give right opportunity for each of them. That helps. Otherwise, like it's always like a bit of confusion that is around, right? So as I said, funding, the easiest way is to go through an incubator. As somebody Asha was asking, that people are getting into hackathon, ideathon, and all. So people give money at that stage itself. And I have seen people like CAE.co from IIM Ahmedabad for giving like they have something like IIM Mavericks for whoever is graduating from IIM Ahmedabad, and if they have a solution or if they have a enterprise entrepreneurial concept in mind, and if that is really good, they give some 3 lakh to 5 lakh rupees while on campus only, so that you can develop the product with that 3 to 5 lakh rupees, whatever kharcha that comes to that, and then see whether it works or not. And they're also covered with 1 year of campus interview holiday. That is, in the sense, like if they are graduating in the year 2022 and you go with that Mavericks, IIM Mavericks, what happens to this is an IIM Ahmedabad. By the way, IIM Ahmedabad's accelerator is the best accelerator, I will tell you. I have now participated in 3 accelerators, and IIM Ahmedabad accelerator is the best. You can consider it to be the YC of the country, Y Combinator of India. So all these other IIMs and all actually are very pathetic. They don't give any support and enough guidance. So IIM Ahmedabad is the best, and if you see that in the Mavericks program, they have a campus interview holiday also. So that could be one of the things that you can look at MVIT also. That is a suggestion, because there are some professors who are participating here in this seminar. I could say that if you could encourage the entrepreneurship, one way of encouraging is if people in the 4th year want to drop out of campus placements and want to start their enterprise, allow them to do so. And if in a year it fails, they will come back and sit in the sit in the next year's campus placement. This is an idea for thought. It is left to the college board and other people who are in charge of this to think about it. So this is what IIM Ahmedabad has followed as one of the methods to increase entrepreneurship in the young minds, right? So there are Startup India, angel investors, seed funding and all. So all these things are methods. So once you start up, then the angels will come. Once you with the angels, you will do the seed funding. Sometimes it is pre-series A if you go to the VCs directly, and then there are venture capital and development financial institutions who want to give money to you. You have to understand that in the color of money is very important. You should not take people's money from say a political inclination guy or guy who has a lot of corruption money with him. No, such kind of money should never be accepted. Again, an ethical standard and accountability perspective, you can't accept it. So for me also, there have been many investors who came and asked, I want to give, but I don't want to give it through bank account. I want to give it to you in cash. I said, we are not a company who would accept that. We are not a real estate company. We are a private limited company, and everything has to happen on bank account only. So we said no to such kind of investors. We said it's okay if we raise even lesser money, but we don't want such money. So that should be the standard that we have to adopt. That should be the case. That is because we should have mentors who would mentor you in that way, who would mentor you on the path which is very straightforward, which is very ethical, and not mentor you on something which is illegal and not correct. For example, many of you might have seen, though I have not seen the India version of the Shark Tank. I think in the India version of Shark Tank, you would have already seen that there was one guy, Ashwin Grover, right, who's a Bharat-based founder. Now, if by any chance you have a unicorn company and then you don't have accountability, he's the best example that you can quote in the modern day world. What will happen? Now he's not able to even sell his stake in the company because nobody trusts him. Nobody knows what's in it if we take. So that becomes a very, very big roadblock for the company to proceed. You always have to remember the accounting principle. one of the accounting principle is company is a different entity from the individual. So Ashwin Grover is not the company and Bharat Pay is not Ashwin Grover. Okay, so that should be the kind of accountability that the person should have in his head. But even then, sometimes the money makes you a different individual. So we should have that ethical standards that matches up to that of a sage when it comes to money. To say that, boss, I know there is money in the company, but this is not money to be wasted. So when you work with, luckily for me, because I work with banks where money is the most sanctifying object we deal with, sanctified, not sanctifying, sanctified object that we deal with, or sanctified material that we deal with. We don't see that money has to be, used in something which is not ethical to our business. So that is the most important thing that one has to think when it comes to financing. So Kalyan, if the most trickiest option is when you get money, how do we deploy it? How do we use it? So that's the most question, and that's the reason why most startups also fail. Most startups fail because people do not understand that money and color of money is important. Money has to be deployed in ethical ways, and money has to be deployed in a way which is good for the company and not for bad for the company. And see, for example, people like Ashwin Grover, it is like in spite of having uh, um, lot of money, he has literally spoiled the the whole experience of building the company, right? So that's how it should be. So you should have that ethical standards set for yourself. The next, as I said, methods of funding. First, you should hire a legal firm. Then what will happen is you will see that what is the instrument for funding. Now coming to the financing aspect, like what Kalyan was asking, what is that? Any questions till now? Just a minute of break I will take. No questions? So now coming to the funding. Now this is the most important and critical aspect because you deal with public money, right? Since you deal with public money, you will have to see that you have agreements, you have binding from both ends, from the investor side also, and also from the company side also, to protect both interest. In either ways, you have to protect interest of the both. Therefore, you need to have a proper understanding of how do we actually get into an agreement to before you really use the money. So now what are the methods of getting the money? The first and the foremost method is, of course, you get money from angels, accelerators, and VCs. In the seed round, you will definitely get it from angels or friends and family. So the instruments that you use for funding, one is called as convertible notes. It's called as CN in general. So convertible notes, it's an easiest form because it doesn't sit on your balance sheet. It is not also on your cap table. What will happen is you will just get, but the only limitation of convertible note is it is of a ticket size of 25 lakhs. So any person who puts in as a convertible note, he has to put a minimum of 25 lakhs. So this is where you may not get many people doing it because people want to put 10 lakhs, people want to put 15 lakhs, want to put 25 lakhs. Not even, yeah. Some question has come. as I already said, the startup which is the best is always private limited company, not proprietorship or partnership. There's a thing called as where loss will be less. The loss will be less where you actually have dwelled into a proper financial discipline. The loss will be less there. The financial accountability and financial discipline is the most key thing that you need to have in any startups. Yeah. So if you are starting up, I would always say that you should start up as a private limited company. And all this funding will happen only if you are a private limited company, and nobody will give you for a proprietorship and a partnership company. Nobody. Okay. So you will have to be a private limited company if you want to be having all these funds. So I was talking about convertible notes. Convertible notes, the only limitation of convertible notes is that it requires 25 lakhs of minimum funding. Then there is compulsorily convertible debenture. Now, if you look at compulsory convertible debenture, it's a good instrument. You can have any amount of money coming in. But the only thing is, on the balance sheet, it will show it as debenture, so it is a debt. Therefore, if you are looking at in terms of a pure and pure financing angle of it, the debt equity ratio will be slightly higher. So because the equity part will be less and the debt will be high. So there may be some objection with respect to the next rounds of funding, and but it's still one of the most sought after instruments for funding in seed round, CCD. Even I wanted to do CCD, but we are doing compulsorily convertible preferential shares, CCPS, because again in CCPS it has a mixture of both convertible notes and convertible CCDs features. That is, one, it need not be 25 lakhs ticket size. It could be any ticket size. Second, it doesn't sit like a CCD on their balance sheets. It is more like a C and then. So one, in terms of ticket size, it is more like a CCD. In terms of how the treatment goes on the balance sheet, it is more like a CM. And then it also has both CCD and CCPS have one feature in common, that is they have a floor and cap for valuation. Now the floor and cap for valuation is very important. The floor is one when there is a downturn for the company, below which the shares will not be going. So that is a kind of a security that you give for the investors who are dealing with you at such a risky stage of your enterprise. So the seed stage is the most riskiest stage of an enterprise. And then there is another angle to it, that is the floor angle. So for example, if we achieve something which is higher than the valuation expected from the floor, the people who have invested in the seed round will still be valued at that floor, that the cap angle only, that the cap valuation only, not at the higher valuation. For example, if I say NAVANC's cap is 25 crores, and even in my next round is the valuation is 50 crores, I will be settling the preferential shares for new investor will come at 50 crores. So that is I think all these things has to be taken care through agreements. And this is no joke. And you cannot go to any Tom, Dick and Harry legal firm and any Tom, Dick and Harry kind of a lawyer. Here, there are specific lawyers who will do it. There are, like, for example, NAVANC went through a specific lawyer called as Spice Root Legal, one of the best lawyers in the country for fintech-based startups. One of the best, not one of the best, the best lawyers. And they know all mergers and acquisitions. So therefore, they're up to date in terms of instruments that are going to be used, up to date for the clauses that has to be put, up to date for what are the rulings in the Supreme Court, in the other high courts and other things, wherein people have challenged the clauses, agreements, and so on and so forth. So you have to have a law firm, and they will not come at a very low cost. It is a high cost thing. So you will have to spend a good amount of 3 to 4 lakhs on CA, CS, and legal if you are starting a private limited company. you can always say that, you can come back and say that, I will give it to you when I take when I get my revenue, which they accept, which they do. But for all these things, you need to have that credible idea, that credible team that backs to you, and then go to them. So complaints, GST, audit for financial years, and there could be other complaints like with respect to the Shop and Establishment Act, PF, and also on and so forth. That is also very important. All these things have to be clear from day zero itself. That's when you get more. Remember, valuation is based on all these things. Remember that there is not going to be a matrix partner, ASL partner, sequoias coming into you without all these complaints. The moment you say that they are interested to fund you, they start with due diligence, and the due diligence works only on papers and complaints. So the higher the complaints that you are more valuation. You get more valuation. Of course, this is another slide which I keep saying because we have another 10 minutes left. So I will just end up. So we should not fear to fail, because we can truly be successful only at things we are willing to fail at. And we have to make a practice as a routine. We introspect daily through journaling. And once you are an entrepreneur, your personal net worth is 10x greater than the classmate who I already had, who is just a salaried person. So just do not fear to be an entrepreneur. You could be an entrepreneur. Only thing is you have to have the will to become an entrepreneur. So that's it. Thanks a lot. And now I'm open for questions. I hope this was something useful for you guys. And I'm open for questions from anybody. I can take questions. No questions? Can we wind up? Vani Priya ma'am or
Yes, sir.
Sri Lakshmi? So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can we wind up?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Vanipriya ma'am, shall I conclude? Ma'am? Okay. Sir, I will only conclude, sir.
Yeah.
I'm extremely happy to propose this vote of thanks. Thank you, Mr. NAGACHETHAN SM, sir, founder, NAVANC, for accepting our invitation and enlightening us about how to plan and create a startup, right from selecting the board of directors, funding agencies, methods of funding, and how to be successful. Amidst your busy schedule. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
I thank the management and the principal for their constant support and encouragement. My heartfelt thanks to all the members of IIC, Sir MBIT, for their timely help and cooperation. I express my sincere gratitude to all the participants for actively participating in this webinar. I thank all the people who are involved in the smooth conduction of this webinar. With this, we have come to an end of this webinar. Thank you all and have a good day. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Feedback link posted. Dear participants, please fill the feedback.
And you can also share that with me. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, NAGACHETHAN. Can you hear me?
Ma'am, sir has left, ma'am. Please fill the feedback, everybody.